Do you remember this? I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. So if you're like me and you used to watch Saturday Night Live and you saw that Stuart Smalley sketch and you think that affirmations are the dumbest thing you've ever heard of, then I'm here to show you why affirmations work and they can make you more productive and happier, but also show you when affirmations don't work and when they can be destructive. Affirmations help our brain in two different ways. One is that they have found with fMRI studies that when we repeat affirmations, we are activating the reward center in our brain. And our brain loves to do more of what gives it that kind of reward hit. So it's really not that much different than when you might win a race that you were running or land that big client at work. That reward center is activated and it makes you want to do more of that thing. So it helps program your brain to kind of want to do what you're affirming. Affirmations also program your brain through repetition because you say them often, and it helps create a new neural pathway in your brain. So let's take, for example, that you are working on a big project at work, and you typically are somebody that might struggle with completing big projects. Now, a lot of times our brain might have a hard time with something like completing projects because when we were younger, maybe our brain was trained that we are unable to complete projects. This could have happened for any number of reasons. A lot of times it's because the information presented to us wasn't in a way that was accessible for our brain. Nobody kind of helped us work with our brain to get tasks done. So we may have actually had a lot of times where we failed at a longer term project. And so your brain is hardwired for safety first. And if your brain perceives fear at trying to complete a project because of this past experience of not doing well on a project, not finishing a project, maybe you got bad grades, maybe in business your boss was mad at you, maybe other kids made fun of you when you were little, or whatever happened, our brain is going to try and push us away from the thing that causes us that pain and that fear response. Now, you would think that our brain wouldn't do this because if we just finished the project, then logically we would think that the scary thing wouldn't happen. But our brain only knows what it has known in the past. And so what it knows is that if you do a project, something bad's going to happen. One of the biggest fears for people, for humans, is abandonment. And so if you were kind of made fun of when you didn't finish projects, if you were told that you were lazy or stupid, and maybe sometimes there were different forms of punishment and stuff, that's taking away connection with other people. It's a form of abandonment. It's also a form of telling you that you're not good enough, and people who aren't good enough tend to be abandoned. So your brain's going to do everything it can to stop that from happening. So it's going to stop you from doing a project because it thinks it's scary. Now, when somebody is confronted with a task that their brain is terrified of, then a lot of kind of negative behaviors will show up. So if we're going to stick with the project example, when we think about kids, a lot of times with homework, that looks like they're kind of working on their homework and all of a sudden they get really angry, they tear up their homework and they start to maybe like yell or cry. With adults at work, that might feel like you just leave a meeting or you decide that you hate everybody that you work with. It's the dumbest job you've ever had. Why do you ever work here? You need to get out. And so those are all kind of responses from our brain trying to protect us, to remove us from the situation that is scary. Now, affirmations can help with this because it's a repetitive process to your brain that's hitting the reward center that's trying to reprogram how your brain thinks about doing long-term projects. So you could have an affirmation that's something like, I complete my projects on time and with ease. And you repeat that every day, multiple times a day when you're working on your project, before you work on your project, when you get up in the morning, when you go to bed at night, and that can really help. Now, there are some issues though with affirmations and times that they can either be just unhelpful or also dangerous. Now, since our brain is wired to keep us safe, if we go too far with an affirmation where it's way too far from a reality that our brain knows, our brain is going to know that the thing is too far off and it's going to push back. So if you use an affirmation for the project that's something like, I complete my projects on time and with ease, your brain is going to be like, what are you talking about? You don't complete your projects on time. You've never completed your projects on time, and you certainly don't complete them with ease. You are anxious, upset, scared, you hate your job, you hate everything, and projects always make you miserable. So that's a complete lie. I'm not going to let you even consider that you complete projects on time and with ease. So sometimes you have to pull the affirmation back to something that is a little bit more closer to what your brain understands. So it could be if you have split your projects up into smaller tasks. That's one of the things people recommend for getting tasks done. The problem is if you always don't do well at projects, splitting it into tasks isn't going to make any difference, because to your brain, it doesn't matter if you split that thing into a million tasks and make a list and break it up. It's still gonna think every single one of those tasks is scary, because it knows the end result is a project that you're going to, what it thinks, not complete, and then you're gonna get in trouble. So you could switch it to something like, I can complete one task a day, and that can help kind of build up that reward system to something that's a little bit more realistic. And you do pick one task a day, and that's what you work on, and so you want to repeat that. And then as that gets better, you can keep changing the affirmation to, I can complete all of my tasks for this week on time, and then in the end it can be, I can complete projects on time and with ease. So you build up to that. So you'll know if an affirmation is a good fit for you if it doesn't make you really upset, anxious, make you think it's really stupid. If it doesn't kind of give you that fight, flight, or freeze response, you'll know that the affirmation is probably something that's accessible for you. You'll also know if it wasn't a good fit if you see bad behaviors that show up. So if I say I can complete a project on time and with ease, and then I go to do that project and I start to get anxious and upset, and so I go do something else like surf on Instagram or something, then I know that that affirmation is probably too far for what my brain could handle. Now, there are times when affirmations can actually be even more kind of dangerous, and you want to be really careful of these times. And if this happens, this is always something that you want to actually work with a therapist with. But so let's take, for example, a really common one that people teach in body positive communities, or like when I was in eating disorder recovery. So they tell you to repeat to yourself all the time, I love my body. Now, for a lot of us, that is too far out of our reality, because what we were taught is that our body is disgusting, and bodies that are disgusting are people who are disgusting. People who are disgusting will never be able to hold a job. They won't be able to take care of their kids. They will always be a failure. So that fear of abandonment and kind of having a whole entire life that is going to be a mess triggers such a fear response. So some people start to have more symptoms of their eating disorder. Some people start to do things like cutting. A lot of us were punished for thinking that our bodies are okay, and so then we start to self-punish. So if that kind of stuff comes up, that's why like all of these things are great, but you actually need to understand how they work in the brain to make sure that they are safe for a person. So that's why I always like to tell people to be really careful when they're using any of this stuff. I mean, you are still working with rewiring your brain. So if something is way too far of what your brain thinks is safe, then it is going to compel you to do behaviors that are probably not helpful to you and could actually be harmful to yourself or somebody else. And so that's always when you want to work with a professional therapist or something, and you want to take the affirmation back. So it could be something like, I tolerate my body, I accept my body, and then you say that every day, multiple times a day, until you can work up to something like, I love my body, where that doesn't trigger this absolute fear in your brain. So I'm going to show you a little video of my son and I working out and how I used affirmation. I use them a lot, especially with things like this. I have a shoulder injury, so I was getting back into doing bench presses. And when you have had an injury, your brain will still perceive any movement that used to cause pain before as something that is scary, and so it can often make us do a movement incorrectly. It can create pain when there isn't actually any injury currently or a reason that there would be pain. because it wants to stop you from doing something that it thinks is going to create pain. So it was really cute. I was just watching back this video from a training session, and I noticed that I was using affirmations, and then my son added in a really cute one also. So I hope this kind of helps you see how we use affirmations. I will be fine, right?
It will
and
be
I am
fine.
safe.
And you are safe.
I'm fine. I'm safe.
I'm gonna lift some shit.
I'm fine. I'm safe. I'm gonna lift some shit. Okay.
Good. You wanna do one more? Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. If you like this video, then please like and subscribe, and you will get a notification every time I come out with a new video that helps you optimize your brain, optimize your body, and optimize your life so you can live a life of happiness, meaning, and purpose.